This is a video on another habit of successful people. And for this one, I'm talking about taking responsibility, owning it, right? That I want to get this tattooed in myself, right? It's this idea of seizing the day requires you to actually own what happens in your life. Now, there's so much in our life that we can't control, right? There's so much that happens that just happens to us. But there are certainly things that we can do that are within our power to actually change the things that happen to us for the better. If we focus our lives only in the things that we don't have the power to change, then we are going to feel defeated. We're going to feel like there's no point. And there are a lot of things like that. But there's always things that we can do to change the situation for the better, or at least change how we feel about the situation so we can deal with it better, right? And help others do the same. So this is what I mean by taking responsibility. It's like, even if it's not your fault that the things are happening to you the way they are, even if you're in a situation that's truly impossible, right? I fell in a hole, right? I you know, I'm treated with a disadvantage from the moment I was born because of what who people think I am, labels that they put on me, right? Or you know, there are real problems in this world with poverty, with discrimination, right? And there are disadvantages and privileges that everybody has, and we have to work together as a society to try to fix those things, to make things more equitable, so that everybody has a decent chance of making it to their dreams. But at the end of the day, there's also things that you can do to lift yourself up, sometimes as hard as you can, against the flow sometimes, to make sure that you face that adversity and that you cope with that as best as you can. Now, we can never expect this of people in the sense of, like, especially the people who are in an underprivileged situation, because it's already harder for them. So this is why helping others is so important, and why generosity is another habit of successful people, because it enhances the quality of everybody's life, including your own. But owning it is about, what are the things that I can do? What is it that I can do different? What is it that I can learn from this experience? How is it that I can adapt and change my feelings or cope with what's happening so that I can feel better and do better in the future? Right? So, how do I take care of my mental health? How do I relax? How do I deal when I'm stressful? How do I respond to moments where I feel anger? What are some of the things that I put in place to make that happen? This is why going to therapy can be so important, even if you don't feel like you don't need therapy, because you can learn these kinds of coping skills. Like, some of the ones I like to use is journaling, exercising, meditating, compassion, giving to others. If I'm upset about something, I will focus on something that helps improve myself. If I feel insecure, I will work on whatever is the cause of that insecurity. But instead of expecting others to change, I will do something that can make me feel more secure without, regardless of what the other person is doing. If it's something that's making me angry because the person hurt me, I will do what I can to protect myself so that I can't be hurt again, but also communicate with the other person in a way that they can feel receptive to that communication, but also feel understood, and I can feel understood as well. I will assert my boundaries if I have to, right? I will journal, like I said. I will engage in nonviolent communication where I express, this is what I need. This is what I feel like has happened to me. This is what I want to see happening now, because of the desires and needs that I have in order to be fulfilled, right? So, for example, if somebody upset me because they yelled at me, I might say something like, "Look, when someone yells at me, right, I feel insecure, I feel unsafe, because I need to be respect I have a need for respect, a need for calm, a need for collaboration, a need for growth with others, to connect with others." And I might just pick one of those, and then I'll say, "I would love if you could try not to yell at me if you're upset in the future, and remove yourself from the situation if that happens, or I will have to do it myself." And that's healthy. You exert your boundary. You say, like, I'm not willing to accept the behavior anymore, right? Um, what else are some of the coping strategies I like to use? Oh wow, there's just so many. Let's Google some right now so that we can do this right. Oh yeah. I might go read. That's a good one. I might invest in relationships which I feel are supportive. I might lower my expectations. If I'm expecting too much of other people, I might ask others for help. I might rely on my support system. I might engage in physical activity. I might try to find humor or read something that I find humorous. I might engage in an activity that I really enjoy. Um, I might seek things that make me feel connected to bigger things. I might. Oh wow, there's just so many, right? So the idea is when you find yourself in a situation that you feel you can't deal with, you can change the way you deal with the situation, even when you can't change the situation, right? That's what the coping strategist bit is about. And that's part of owning it. And then the other part of owning it is changing the thought of the situation that you can actually change. So taking responsibility is thinking about it's like, what is it that I can do? What is it? What is the role that I had in making this happen? How is it that I brought myself to this place? Now, it's very dangerous to think this way when you're a victim of something because it's not your fault when things happen to you, that when people attack you, when people are mean to you. I get that, right? And you should never feel like it's your fault because you have the right to be safe and not be attacked by others. But you can still do things to protect yourself in the future, to prevent yourself from being in a situation where you were like that again, right? Um, and that's kind of what I mean, right? Like, what is it that I can do different because there's people like that in the world? Now, nobody should have to change for the sake of aggressors. But we need to be careful sometimes in life because unfortunately there are people out there which aren't looking out for our best interests. So what can we do to still be true to ourselves and be who we want to be, but not be open for to be taken advantage of or attacked by others, right? But in general, when it's something that you want to make sure that you achieve, something that you're trying to push for, uh, taking responsibility is also about making sure that you did what you should have done. And so taking the time to reflect and think about, like, okay, what could I have done differently? What can I do better? What is it that I did well and I should do again? That's why those reflections are so important. Goal set so that you actually have a direction in which you have to go for the next time that you try to go out there and do something, so that you can actually make sure that you're present on your decisions. Maybe not rushing to make decisions, but thinking decisions ahead of time if possible. Thinking about tough situations you might find yourself in and decide before you're in those situations so that when you are in those situations, you know what to do. For example, and that's a big one for teenagers. Let's say you're involved with someone and you want to make sure that you don't go too fast on your relationship, right? So before you reach certain boundaries that you might not be comfortable crossing, before you are at that moment where you're crossing that boundary, make sure that you think about it ahead of time. What am I going to do when that comes up? What is it that my responsibility is going to be in that moment? How can I say yes or no to the person? And how am I going to feel about whichever one I do? Which one do, and how does that sound like? How do I make sure that I'm safe, right? Before you're there, before you get to that point. So try to imagine as many of these situations as possible so that you don't have to decide on the fly. You know, people complain, it's like, oh, I didn't have time to think about it. That's because you didn't think about it ahead of time. You can't always anticipate everything. So learning to take a deep breath and count to five, and then taking the step back to think when you have time to think, and learning to say no and learning to say, I'm not ready to make this decision right now. That's also part of owning it, right? It's also part of doing better. Making sure that your attitude is in the right place, having right affirmations to make sure that you have a positive mindset, making sure that you actually take actions with planning so that you can make sure that you do the best that you can in every situation. That's part of owning it, right? Of embracing your responsibility. When things don't go well, owning it has to do with acknowledging that you made mistakes, going up to people and apologizing, asking them what kind of apology they need. Do they need to hear that you messed up? Do they hear to acknowledge what you did wrong? They need to hear that you're sorry? Do they need to know what you're going to do different next time? Do they want to have a recompense or some sort of uh, consequence for what you've done? How does that look like? Every person is different in what they need as an apology. But also don't expect forgiveness because you're the one that did the hurt. You're the one that has to be patient. Now you have the right not to have that same thing thrown in your face over and over again, especially if you're willing to make the steps to change and if you have taken those steps to change, if you're owning it. But you're not entitled to have the person reestablish the relationship with you if you actually hurt them, right? They might not feel safe with you anymore. So you have to understand that that's the case, right? Uh, they don't. You don't have to sit there and take it if they're mean to you, but you also can't expect them to accept you back, right? So owning goes into all of that, right? Uh, Including apologizing it when you feel like you made mistakes. So owning also means being proud of what you do well. Now, pride can be bad because you don't want to be like gloating to other people, but a little bit of hubris is okay. Recognizing that you're good at something, that you worked hard, that you've gone really far, having that pride is like, okay, look, I've worked really hard. I got here because of this hard work, and I recognize how much I know because of this. That is okay. It is okay to know that you deserve praise, right? That's part of owning it. Part of owning it is also have a little bit of humility and realize that you probably need to learn a lot more. The more you learn, the more you realize there's so much that you still need to learn. And sometimes we might overestimate how much we know, right? We might know just a little to not know that we don't know enough. So having a little bit of humility is important too. So even if you recognize, look, I've worked really hard and I've learned all this stuff, it's also okay to take that, be a little careful and be like, but I recognize there might be things that I don't know. So I'm opening to the opinions of others, or as long as they're backed up with good research, right? Owning is being able to back up what you're saying, have the evidence to show that you deserve the praise. So if you walk into a place and you say, no, this is the right way of doing things, it's not just my opinion though. Here's all the work I've put in to prove that this is right. This is all the research and all the data that has been collected by me and others to make my point. This is why you should trust me, right? Owning it is about literally having that capacity to walk into a room and know that your presence there should be respected because you can back yourself up, right? When you own it, you know you got it. But at the same time, you know you need to work harder to keep getting better. You truly are working to make your mama proud. Go out there and I hope you own it.